and here are the resources that we normally show during a normal time about the health center and what they have available. So I'm just going to quickly kind of pull away a big kind of point with this is that you should be getting screenings, every 3 to 6 months or between partners, and also that there are extragenital screenings, so throat swabs or rectal swabs that can be used if you're engaging in oral sex or anal sex. So those things are really important because sometimes you can take the test like pee in a cup, but they won't test positive, but really you still have it in your throat or your rectum. So those are just some important things to keep in mind. The health center normally has free screening opportunities as well as testing opportunities. Right now, because of the timing, that isn't as available, but we will give you some resources that they have compiled soon.
So this is what's typically what the STI testing typically has. But things are different, but this is what usually is at the health center and what usually is available. This is a really great chart because people do get confused when there isn't free STI testing. You are available to make an appointment through a provider if you want to do it that way. That usually runs through your insurance if you're comfortable with that, or if not, they usually have the STI clinic where you can get tested there. It's out of pocket. The prices vary. It just depends on exactly what tests you're looking for and what you want to get tested, like how many swabs you want, or if you're just peeing in a cup. So that just varies, but there is everything there. And one important thing that we do like to mention to you all, it's very important to get screened, but getting screened is different than getting tested. So getting screened is just making sure you don't have anything and you're just getting a regular checkup. If you have symptoms, do not get screened, get tested right away because they'll do a comprehensive test to make sure to see what you have and to rule out any other possibilities. So if you do have symptoms, don't wait for a screening, go to a provider to get tested for sure.
And that leads great into our next slide where UMD, our health center, has compiled a bunch of referrals for you. So if you are having symptoms right now, or if you're in need of birth control or any other sexual health resource, go ahead and scan this QR code and they will give you some more details about that. So you might be wondering how to go to a provider during this time, or if you're allowed to go or what's going on. So basically, if you have STI symptoms, it's a really great idea to call your provider and they'll be able to tell you whether or not you can go in for testing. So that would be the first step. If you do not have symptoms, please don't leave your home unless you need to. Also, some providers are prescribing BC without an in-person visit. So that's a really great thing that you can actually get some birth control without having to go in, possibly. So that's another thing to call your provider about. So at the health center during COVID-19, BC consultations are still available over the phone or Zoom. So you can still get in touch with the health center for BC consultations, and also prescriptions at the pharmacy are still being provided. And so calling the health center and asking what's going on with your prescriptions is totally a great option, and they really want to make sure that everyone has accessibility to their prescriptions at this time.
And then just going back, why it's incredibly important to get tested while you have symptoms is because it could be an STI, but a lot of the symptoms also could be a yeast infection or a UTI. So definitely don't ignore it. If your body's telling you something, go get checked out, call your provider, see if you can go in during this pandemic, because it could just be another health issue that you need to get checked out. Mm-hmm. And then going off of that, as we mentioned earlier in the presentation, sexual minority youth are less likely to use hormonal birth control and condoms in comparison to their heterosexual peers, and lesbian and bisexual women are more likely to have been pregnant than their heterosexual peers. So it's incredibly important to learn about the type of birth control and contraceptives they have available to you, and then also just some safer sex tools that could help prevent STIs. So here we have a QR code for bedsider.org. It's a wonderful website that goes through all of the different options that you can see here on this screen, and you can go on to specific links for what's the most effective or which ones are specific for STI prevention if you're looking particularly just for STI prevention. Normally we would pull it up and go through a couple of these, but you can go through it on your own time through the QR code.
And if you want to learn more about BC, we will be doing a webinar through Sex Week that you can also reference.
So questions, concerns, and just trying to figure it all out. These are just some general questions that people have about sex, about sexuality, about figuring it all, just, you know, trying to figure it out, especially for the LGBTQ plus community. It's very, very different. We have different questions. We have more questions, less answered questions. So that's kind of why we're here, to help navigate that and help figure things out. Things like painful sex or finding the right condom or the right tools, or just being inclusive and trying to figure out your sexuality. And as you develop that, also developing proper and healthy sexual relationships and sexual health. So it's just important to remember this is a lifelong process. Nobody has it all figured out at one point in time. And it's great because that means you can grow, you can explore, you can learn, and your sexual health, your sexual desires can change. It's fluid and it's not linear. But as a gay man, I figured I have had so many questions that haven't been answered by regular sexual health education or curriculum, which has been one of the reasons why I've done this, to help, you know, close that gap and provide information for people. So I think it's just really, really important to remember that you're not alone in this. Everyone has so many questions and concerns, and just sometimes it can be scary and you cannot know. But I think that's why we're here. It's to try to help figure it out, not just for everyone, but for ourselves as well. But there are some great resources listed down at the bottom that the health center has, and just University of Maryland in general. But one I wanted to point out specifically was the LGBT Equity Center. So that's not specifically related to sexual health, but sometimes they will mention things. But yeah, so the LGBT Equity Center is a great resource on campus. If you're not familiar with it, you can sign up. They release a rainbow report every so often. You could do that through the email. You can sign up for the listserv, and then they'll send an email about just report. They'll talk about what's going on in their center, like what events that they're having and just kind of things they're doing. So here's just two examples was in the report that I got from April 6th. So they're just addressing, you know, COVID and what's going on. And there are virtual community hours and staff drop-in hours for students if you need that. And then being home and queer during COVID-19, they're going to do a virtual I guess session, and it's through the counseling center as well, for this one, just about how to deal with family, friends, roommates, that kind of thing. So that's the LGBT Equity Center is a great resource that I don't think everybody knows about. So you could definitely just Google that and find out and get signed up for that report if you'd like.
I love getting it in my email.
Yeah, they provide great things and hot topics and things too, so it's pretty cool. Okay, but we just want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in to this virtual webinar. Hannah's done a great job with Sex Week this week, especially with it going virtual and everything. So she's been definitely working really hard for that. And yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much. And I just wanted to promo Sex Week. In case you don't know about our events, go ahead and follow us on social media. This is our calendar if you have any interest in that. And I just want to reiterate what Michael said just about knowing that you're not alone and that there are other queer people out here, and we're all trying and we're all doing our best. And we just want to validate you and say thank you so much. And yeah.
One last thing I think that we were going to do is if you had any questions about sexual health, specifically you could like DM or whatever at UMD Sex Week and ask your questions. And then I think if we did have enough questions for people to ask, we might do a Q&A video if there are any questions that people want to ask.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you guys.